Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. It is Seb here from the Front Office Report. I'm coming to you to discuss this afternoon's Dutch Grand Prix, which has just finished about 45 minutes ago. I did try and go live, but we're having some struggles on this end technically with my old as dirt laptop. So dropping this as just a normal video. We're just going to have a little bit of chat about the race, go through some of the sort of key storylines from top to bottom. I think the main storyline, again, as it has been quite a lot recently, is the battle between Max Verstappen and Lewis Hamilton. And once again, Max Verstappen has come out on top. He led from pretty much start to finish without really ever getting into too much trouble. There was at one point in lap maybe 50 or 60 that Lewis was able to close the gap to a couple of seconds. But then Max was able to bring that back out again, and Lewis just didn't seem to have the tires to be able to keep up with him. The Red Bull just was too quick, and Lewis just wasn't able to get close enough to actually really do any sort of damage, which is a shame. It does mean that the pendulum has swung yet again in the Drivers' Championship. Max is back on top by 3 points, 224.5 to 221.5. And it does, I mean, it continues to just set up the rest of this season to be just absolutely fantastic, going down to the wire. I could see this literally being all the way to the final race before we actually get a result as to who's going to win this championship. As a bit of a Lewis fanboy, of course, I'm still hoping that he's able to pull out a victory, but let's see. Moving further down the order, I think Valtteri Bottas, we have to make a bit of a comment on again. Just disappointing. He just didn't seem to have it. The pace just wasn't there. At one point, I think that the team radio was they came on and said something along the lines of, it doesn't look like we're going to interact with the top of the race, or something along those lines. Just a really posh way of saying you're slow, which is a little bit savage from the Mercedes team. I mean, it's the worst kept secret in Formula One now. George Russell is going to sign the contract with Mercedes for 2022. There was a couple of times in the build up to the race over the last couple of days, we had a clip of Christian Horner saying, "Oh, have you congratulated him on his new contract?" during an interview. Daniel Ricciardo said something similar. So as I said, it's the worst kept secret. Everyone knows what's going to happen. There's little clips going around of Toto speaking and George speaking, and you can tell they're really trying to pick their words. I think we'll have that announcement within the next week. George Russell being Lewis Hamilton's teammate for next year. There were some reports midweek. I don't think they were a particularly reliable source, but suggesting that Lewis wouldn't be happy with this. I mean, obviously, I've got no idea. I'm not close to Lewis Hamilton whatsoever. I don't see how this is going to be detrimental to Lewis. I think there have been several occasions, not just this season, but in the past few seasons, where having that second driver who's actually involved in the race up top, like today, if Valtteri had been able to stick with Lewis and Max, would it maybe have made a bit of a difference with the outcome? Who knows? I mean, again, there was an opportunity that Bottas could have tried to hold up Max after a pit, but I think within a lap, Max had overtaken him. So I just think from Lewis's perspective, having a competent teammate, which I honestly think George Russell is going to fly in that Mercedes. We saw a little bit of him, obviously, in that one race at the end of last season where he replaced Lewis, who tested positive for COVID, I think. And he should have won were it not for a Mercedes slip up with some tires, etc. Very uncharacteristic. But yeah, he would have won that race otherwise. So I think George has shown that he can do it. And again, although last week's wet race at Spa wasn't really a race, he's shown that he can qualify. He's shown in races he can maintain pace, although it's obviously just difficult in the Williams car. So I think it's going to be very interesting, very, very interesting. Whether George gets himself into the world title discussion next year, I'm not sure. I don't think I can jump to that conclusion just yet. But I mean, the signs point to him being a much, much better teammate than Bottas. Kind of moving further down the order, I think that the next position is who we should talk about, and that's Pierre Gasly, who, again, another fantastic result. I think I saw a stat the other day that if you averaged out Pierre Gasly's results for the season, his average finishing result is something like 5.36. I think he's had a fantastic season so far, and I think it's really flying under the radar. He is in, where is he in the table? He is in 8th in the championship standings, which is again very solid. But he's only behind the 2 Mercedes, the 2 Red Bull, the 2 Ferrari, and a McLaren. Other than that, he's just performed really well. I've been very impressed with Pierre Gasly, and again, for a man who had a lot of trouble. Obviously, he was with Red Bull, and then he ended up dropping down and going back to the Toro Rosso team, which at the time seemed to give him some real issues, and seemed to sort of knock his confidence a lot, which is, again, is understandable. But he's really come back strong this year. I've been super impressed with him. I think it begs the question, if he has another season like this where he performs so strongly, would he potentially be in consideration for going back to the Red Bull seat? I think they have locked up Perez for next season, but I think it's something they'll have to consider. I mean, again, if you look at his last few races, he's finished 4th, 6th, 5th. He's had a 3rd in there in Baku. It's been really impressive even. So very happy with Pierre Gasly, another French driver as well. So that's nice to see. Moving slightly further down the order, I think another very solid race for Ferrari, who, coming into this, to be fair, actually, I think in free practice 2, I want to say, I'm sure the 2 Ferraris were the 2 quickest car on the track. So they've shown over the season and in practices, etc., they definitely have got some pace. They are looking towards getting back to the team they would like to be, and they were. I think it's just a case of sort of if, not when. I think their driver lineup is good, and they, again, very solid from Charles and Carlos Sainz, split by Fernando Alonso, who started in, I want to say, 10th place. He had a very solid race as well, worked his way up, finished in 6th, made some nice little overtakes here and there. The McLarens finished 10 and 11. Again, Lando, he was out in Q1, I want to say. So for him to come all the way back up and still gain a point is good for them. But the championship table is getting very interesting in sort of the midfield. Obviously, it's Mercedes and Red Bull sort of going for 1 and 2. Mercedes ahead by 12 points at present, 344 to 332. Then we have a little battle for 3rd and 4th between Ferrari and McLaren. Ferrari's strong positioning today has actually put them back ahead of McLaren. They are 181 versus McLaren's 170. And then you have a little battle for 5th and 6th between Alpine and AlphaTauri, 90 to 84. Alpine have the advantage at present. So we have got almost like 3 different battles going on there. And then Aston Martin slightly further back on 53. Whether Vettel and Stroll can pull something out to get them a bit closer to the Alpine AlphaTauri conflict, I'm not sure, but let's see. Overall, I think it wasn't the most exciting of races. There were hesitations coming into it about the fact that it wasn't really going to be a circuit where teams could overtake. At least it was a quicker circuit, not quite like your Monaco Grand Prix, for example, which is kind of slow, as well as not having the overtaking. And there were a few moves here and there. Sergio Perez, who ended up finishing 8th, started from the pits and did end up with driver of the day. So he showed that you can overtake on this circuit, but it's not really a circuit for overtaking. Although at the end of the race, Lewis Hamilton in his post-race interview was singing the praises of Zandvoort, as it's called, saying that he really hopes, I don't know if it's confirmed for the calendar next year, but he really hopes they're back racing here next year. It is quite a cool circuit with the banks and that sort of thing. So it's not the most exciting. But a race is a race. Formula One is Formula One at the end of the day. Overall, you know, it was a race that happened. Not a whole lot much else really. I think we'll just roll on to Monza, where I'm hoping, from my perspective, that we can have Lewis back on the top step. It'll be interesting to see how the Mercedes handles that circuit. As I say, the Max Lewis battle does rumble on, and it could go either way. It really could go either way. I'm really excited to see how this season finishes. One other thing, actually, I will mention: we are not Nikita Mazepin fans here, as I think a lot of people are. And he again was involved in some controversy with his teammate Mick Schumacher, almost seeming to block him off at one point. And then Mick, in his post-race interviews, he was quoted as saying that he doesn't go complaining to the media like Mazepin does. I just think that it's a bit of a disgrace, really. The fact that Mazepin is in the sport when he's just bought his way in, pretty much. His dad's money has got him into the sport, and it's a difficult one. I don't know how they really, the FIA, how they control this, because a team like Haas is in such desperate need of funding. They're very happy to take on a driver like Mazepin, especially this year when they know that they're not really actually battling for anything at all. They've already said they're focusing on next season with the rule changes. So it's a difficult situation. Mazepin needs to go. Obviously, we're not even going to go into the controversy surrounding his potential misdemeanors outside of the racing track. But if you haven't, you should have a look at those, and you can join the Mazepin out crew. But yeah, I think we'll leave it at that today. We've got Monza coming up next week, as I said. Hopefully, we'll get the guys on, Gabo and Omar, potentially to join me after that race. We'll aim to go live next week for a bit of a discussion about that. In the meantime, thank you very much for watching. If you have any comments you want to make about the race, things you want to add in there, drop a comment in the comment section. That's what that's called. Give us a like if you enjoyed the video. Sorry, it's just me on my own, but at least you get to have a little bit of a roundup of the Grand Prix if you missed it. Make sure you check out the highlights, because there are some good things on there. And yeah, we'll leave it at that. Thank you very much for watching. So we'll leave it at that. Thank you very much for watching, guys. We will see you next time. Peace.
Hey guys, thanks for watching. If you like hearing us ramble about sports, feel free to subscribe at the top right, check out the next videos on the left, and feel free to leave us a like at the bottom. Thank you guys for watching.